Hey guys, Marshall Daniels with Daniels Made Handpans here. As a builder, I'm constantly oiling my instruments, and so I thought I'd make a little video showing my process of how I keep the surface of all my handpans lubricated and also protected. Even though most handpans these days are made of stainless steel, it's still a good idea to have a little bit of oil on the surface to protect from moisture. So just wanted to go through my process with you really quick. To start off, let's go through some of the things that I use when I'm keeping my instruments lubricated. I've got a dry microfiber cloth. I've got some latex gloves. I have some denatured alcohol. I've got a roll of paper towels, and I've got a respirator for when you're working with liquids that have vapors. I've got Phoenix handpan oil, and I also have another microfiber cloth that has been drenched over time with the Phoenix handpan oil that I use. Okay, so this handpan has been oiled before, but it does need a new application of the oil itself. So what I'll do, start off, is I'll get some latex gloves on. Now you don't have to put on gloves if you don't want to. I just prefer it to keep the oil off of my hands. Phoenix handpan oil is a food grade oil. You can also use many different types of normal food grade oil like coconut oil, olive oil, stuff that would not be corrosive or have any sort of solvents or petroleums in it. So once I get started with the handpan itself, I take some Phoenix handpan oil, and I like to have just a generous adding of the oil dripping around. Most of the time when a handpan is dry, it will just take this much, especially if you're applying with either a paper towel or a dry microfiber cloth, which will just soak it right up. So since I oil handpans all the time, I like to keep a microfiber cloth nice and drenched with oil. As I use it over time, it just gets soaked. This has only been used with Phoenix handpan oil. If you're oiling your handpan a lot, or if you have multiple instruments, I highly recommend just keep a plastic bag and use the same cloth without having to, you don't have to clean the oil off of it over time. And that does a great job of retaining oil and not losing excess oil, and then also when you're actually rubbing it in. So you can see as we're applying, it does change the color, but it just gives a nice, good uniformity to the overall patina on the instrument itself, and it will protect it over time with keeping moisture off of the surface and things that can corrode it, stuff like that. So just getting all of this on here. This particular instrument does have a unique finish to it. I applied a sanded spiral finish to it, and it has a neat dual tone holographic pattern on it. But as you can see from when we first started, that it has a darker, almost redder look to it. I find it really pleasing to add oil to a dry handpan because it just does give a nice overall uniform look to it while I'm applying it. So once you get all the oil spread evenly over the surface, one thing you can notice is that it's a little juicy. So you got lots of oil on the surface and it's a grimy thing. So you don't necessarily want to leave your handpan like that. At least I don't, for a couple of reasons. One, every time you play it, you get oil all over your hands and you're just greasy after you finish playing. And two, that excess oil can capture dust. I can already see little particles of dust that have accumulated and gotten stuck on the surface oil. So once I get that fresh layer of oil on there, I'll put my rag back in the bag, and then I'm gonna switch over to applying some denatured alcohol. So this is just basically a fuel-based alcohol. You can also use isopropyl alcohol if you have it. If you are not in a well-ventilated space, I highly recommend putting on some respirators, which I'm going to go ahead and do now. All right, so I can't really talk that while I've got the respirators on, but what you're going to see me do is just grab a piece of paper towel, place it on top of the handpan, pour a little bit of denatured alcohol on it, and then just rub around the instrument. All right, so now we've got the alcohol applied to the surface, and as you can see, what the alcohol does is it thins out the oil a little bit, brings the viscosity down a little bit so that it can be, one, further spread around the instrument in case you missed any parts, and then also it just kind of removes any excess off of the surface. But since stainless steel isn't perfectly smooth all the way down to the microscopic level, it will retain a very thin layer of oil, because you can still see we've preserved that uniform patina look that we got when we first applied the oil. And so once you've done that, the last step I do is I take a dry microfiber cloth and I just pull off some of the dust. So I see just like dust, and I'll kind of just like anything extra just to kind of like preserve that nice look. So if there's any kind of like anything left on the surface, just kind of rub that off. And that's the cool thing about it, is like you don't see a bunch of excess oil moving around. It's just got a little protected, so it's a little less on your fingers when you're playing it. And yeah, that's how I oil my instruments. Thanks for watching. So PS, as a bonus, I'm gonna go ahead and put some oil on the bottom, but an extra added benefit of having a soaked microfiber cloth that already has your Phoenix handpan oil, another way that you can use that is you can put it on top of your instrument like this, and you can add a little bit of denatured alcohol on top of that rag. What that will do is it will allow some of that oil to come out of the rag as it's thinned out, and it will allow you to spread it easily around the instrument. You don't even have to use any extra from your oil bottle. So I'll put my respirator back on and I'll show you guys now. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate you tuning into the channel. I love talking about all things handpan. So if you like the content, please subscribe, share with your friends, and there'll definitely be more to come.